You're listening to the Travis Makes Money podcast presented by GoHighLevel.com. For a free 30-day trial of the best all-in-one digital marketing software tool on the planet, just go to GoHighLevel.com/Travis. What's going on, money makers? Welcome back to the Travis Makes Money podcast, where it's our mission to help you make more money. If you're new to the show, we release brand new conversations with unconventional money makers 7 days a week. So if you haven't yet, please be sure to go to your podcast app of choice right now. Follow the show so you never miss an opportunity to learn how to make more money. Today on the show, we're talking about landscaping with my old friend, good friend, Bryan Clayton. Bryan is not your typical CEO. He's a true innovator in the lawn care industry. As the founder and CEO of GreenPal, often called the Uber for lawn care by Entrepreneur Magazine, Bryan has completely transformed how homeowners find and hire local lawn care pros. Today, over 300,000 people rely on GreenPal, with thousands of lawn care transactions happening every single day. It's all thanks to Bryan's deep understanding of the market and his ability to meet customer needs in fresh new ways. And the cool thing is that Bryan started GreenPal as a result of having a landscaping business that was doing 10 million a year in revenue before. So he was able to use that expertise and data and go build out this application, which is super cool for me because the first time that Bryan came on the show, this is like the early stages of GreenPal. So it's been really cool to watch the journey happen over the last few years. And now we have the ability to reconnect and catch up a little bit. So Bryan, what's up, dude? Welcome to the show again.
That's great to be here, buddy. Thanks for having me on. Like we were talking about, I can't believe it's been 5 years since we last chatted. It feels like last year, man. So,
Crazy, dude. What year did you start GreenPal?
well, GreenPal's has been around since 14, so I guess
Okay.
we're like a 10-year overnight success.
Okay, yeah. So we had our conversation, I want to say maybe 2018, 2019,
Yeah.
back when the show was called Build Your Network. And this was one of those concepts I remember, like when I read it the first time, I was like, this is awesome. Like this is going to do, like, this should do well. This should take off, because I had actually thought about doing something similar. I don't know if I told you that at the time. But I was obsessed with the idea of like Uber for this, Uber for that, Uber for this. And I was like, lawn care is one of those things. And then we had a conversation like a week after that. And I was like, oh, somebody's already doing that, so I'm not going to focus on that. But I am curious to see how the journey goes. So catch us up, man. How has GreenPal been going in the last 5, 6 years?
Yeah, man, we're still focused on how do we make this one chore, lawn mowing, as easy as pushing a button. How do we make it quicker, faster, cheaper, smoother, more reliable, more efficient? How do we make it to where pros can make more money doing the service
Mm-hmm.
and just working on grinding out all of the things that go into pushing a button and getting your lawn mowed as easy as possible. And that's kind of, I guess, one of our keys to success. We don't do anything else but lawn mowing and landscaping maintenance. A lot of times you can kind of get diverted into other verticals like home cleaning or pool service or home painting, but we focus just on landscaping maintenance, and I think that's why we've gotten where we are today. We're one of the largest networks in the country where you can just push a button and get lawn mowing done.
Do you have data on how much money some of your users are making? Like the people that are actually mowing the lawns?
We have several users on the platform making over $1 million a year mowing yards on the platform, and that's it's crazy.
Wow.
It really is why we do what we do. We offer a nice convenience to consumers where they can push a button and get this service done. But really, why I get out of bed in the morning is to help people that do what I used to do, mow yards, improve their life, help them make more money with less headache, and helping them kind of get access to a business in a box, helping them grow their business with less headache is why we do what we do. Nobody teaches any of us how to run a small business.
Yeah.
Nobody teaches us how to run a service-based business. And so GreenPal's job is to kind of be like their coach, like their mentor in their pocket, helping them win more business, helping them stay on track, helping them upsell, helping them find the waste in their routes, and helping them and unlock profits. That's what we do.
Is this something that anybody can do?
Yeah, anybody that wants to work hard and be proactive and run a service-based business, yeah, and that's kind of what we're built to do. It's everything other than mowing the yard. So all of the marketing, all of the route optimization, all of the back office stuff, all of the billing is all handled by the platform, and
Wow.
so all the service provider has to do is to show up, do a good job, reach out to their client when they're done, make sure that they're happy, and then everything else is handled for them. And so it is kind of like everything other than mowing the grass is what the platform is built to do.
These people that are earning $1 million a year doing this, I assume this is because they have. Are these people who kind of signed up to the platform? They already have an existing business. They already have a bunch of people mowing yards, and they just need a way to manage it and grow their clientele. Or are these people who are like they signed up because they wanted to make some extra cash mowing yards on the weekends, and then they figured out that they could actually make real money doing this?
Yeah, everything in between. So, we've been around 10 years. So we've had some service providers just start with us, as like a fireman or a school teacher or somebody that got laid off from a job and just start mowing grass on our network as a way to get by and then slowly grow their livelihood on top of our platform. And then we've had some providers who might have had two or three employees and everything was a mess. And then they kind of port all of that stuff onto our platform and run it more efficiently with our tool set. So both. What we prefer is somebody kind of grow and kind of graduate alongside with our tool set because it's kind of more homegrown that way. But if somebody just wants to work hard and kind of dedicate their life to this industry, they can do very well. And we try to take the guesswork out of it and kind of just map it out for them and kind of give them a way to go from 10 to 20 customers and then 20 to 200 and then some are doing as many as 500 a week.
Oh my
500
gosh.
stops a week, all over their metro and keeping it all organized in one place and not having to run accounts receivable is a big piece of that.
Mm.
A lot of times, home service providers, don't get paid for the work they do.
Yeah, they're chasing dollars with half their time.
Exactly. Well, so GreenPal is built to help them get paid within 24 hours of all the stops that they're doing. So they're not wasting time, following up with customers like, "Hey, did you send me that Venmo? Did you send me that PayPal? Did you mail me that check?" Because that's like it's like I used to always say this when I ran a business was half of the job, half of the job was doing the work, and then the other half was like getting paid for the work.
Yeah.
We're built to solve that problem for them.
For somebody that's looking to side hustle, man, this seems like just a way better version than even driving for Uber would be.
It's I like to call, even if you don't mow grass on the GreenPal network, the landscaping business is one of the perfect side hustles that you can do because if you're willing to do it seriously, you can make 150 bucks an hour. If you're willing to really kind of take it seriously, be proactive about it, invest in the right equipment, and work 5 hours a day or 2 or 3 days a week, you really can trade your hours for more dollars than you can, driving for Uber or delivering groceries or something like that.
Is this in every state now?
Yeah, yeah. I think when we talked, 4 or 5 years ago, we were probably only in maybe, 50 cities, but now we're in around 300 cities in the United States and
Wow.
in every state in the country. We want to be in Canada, UK, and Australia. So that's in the works of international expansion.
I mean, congrats, dude. I love the idea. I love the idea of businesses that help other people have their own businesses underneath that business. Like you said, when you take away a lot of the guesswork behind managing, like you said, even the routes and things like that you don't even think about. It's like, well, that's a major part of managing a landscaping business is figuring out what the best route is and then collecting the cash and then upselling jobs. And there's so many things that you're not thinking about if you're just like mowing some lawns. But the ability to turn this thing into like some significant revenue seems like it's on the table.
It's that simple Tony Robbins like aspirational quote that he has. Like if you focus on enough other people's success, your success will follow.
Hmm.
Like as simple and like cliche and aspirational and woo woo as that sounds, like that's kind of been our North Star. We've always just kind of focused on, okay, we've got, in the early days, we've got 12 landscapers using our network. Okay, now we have 100 landscapers using our network. And today it's around 30,000. And so all we really do is just focus on, okay, are these people making more money than they were last year? And are they more successful than they were last year? And if they are, then we're doing our job. And if they're not, then we're screwing something up. So it really has kind of been a simple thing for us to make sure we're doing the right things.
What have been the differences for you running a landscaping business to now running a tech company? Wildly different industries, wildly different fields, completely different challenges. The success principles obviously are very similar, but there's got to be a lot of different things that you weren't expecting jumping into this new field.
Yeah, a lot of things are similar, but a lot of things are different. So the main thing that is different that nobody told me about was when you are starting a tech company, most of the time you're inventing something brand new that does not exist in the world. And you're inventing something from scratch and putting it into the world that does not yet exist. And there's a lot that goes into that you don't know, you don't really know what you're supposed to be doing. And you kind of just have to go from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm and just kind of trial and error your way to success. And there's nothing that can prepare you for that. And I didn't know that. I built and sold a landscaping company before starting GreenPal, and I thought, okay, I built and scaled this other business. This will be a tech business. This will be a little easier. And I was wrong. It was actually 1,000 times harder because I was inventing something, and
Yeah.
it's a lot harder. I guess my point is, it's a lot harder to invent a new product than it is to start a business.
Yeah, right. Well, in one case, it's much more difficult to go from 0 to 1 than it is to go from 2 to 3.
Bingo. Yeah. If you can start a new construction company, start a laundromat, start a restaurant, start a home construction company, that's hard. But inventing a new product, even a physical product, a digital product that nobody knows exists and nobody knows to use and nobody knows where to find it and how do you distribute that and put it in somebody's hands when they need it? That's a lot harder.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that
Well,
starting
yeah,
off.
they don't even know that they have that need.
Right, exactly.
You have
They
to
don't know
go
where to
educate
find it.
them
They
on
don't
that
know how to
part.
use it. Yeah. And
Right.
so all these things are kind of happening at the same time when you're starting a digital product. And so you think that the hard thing is like the coding and the technical execution, like and you think, okay, if I can just build it, they will come. And you realize if you build it, they will not come. And like the hard thing is if you
Yeah, if you build it, you will lose money. Yeah, that's
yeah,
really
yeah,
how it goes.
exactly. If you build it, now you get to start the hard part, and so that was the thing nobody told me about, and I guess somebody could have told me, but I still wouldn't have believed them. And it took us like 3 or 4 years to get through that hard period, and we just hustled our way through it and got our first 100 users and celebrated that like that was a million, and then focused on our first 1,000 and then tried to turn that into 5,000 and 10,000 and just kept trying to grow the numbers and never look back.
What are some of the principles that remain the same?
A lot of the kind of customer development things. In my landscaping business, I was just obsessed over customer happiness and when customers were pissed off, fixing it quickly,
Hmm.
and and also making it really easy for customers to tell me when they were pissed off. Everybody had my cell number, even though we had thousands of customers that we were doing landscaping services for, that everybody could call me 7 days a week. And GreenPal is kind of the same way. I still do at least an hour a day of customer support personally because
Hmm.
I don't want this. I'm paranoid that there's this gap that forms between the founder logic and the customer logic,
Yeah,
and so like and I think it always happens, and
keeping a
and
pulse on the customer, no matter how big you
yeah,
get.
what they're experiencing, what they're thinking, and how they're looking at what the company does, and then you as the founder are looking at it from a different perspective, and it's like both of you are looking at it from different paradigms, and there's this weird thing that happens, and like that show that the undercover boss. It's a hilarious show because the CEO comes down into the trenches and doesn't know how to doesn't know the basics and fundamentals of the business. And so that should make you paranoid as the founder. You should always want to try to close that gap. And so one way I do that is at least 1 hour of every day, sometimes 2 or 3 hours a day. I'll do live chat. I'll do 1-800 number support. I'll do email tickets,
Wow.
just so I kind of have a finger on the pulse. Jeff Bezos is famous for this. Like they'll be in a meeting and they'll talk like, oh, we reduced wait times on the customer support line to 2 minutes, and he said, okay, well let's call in now. And he'll call in right there, in front of everybody, and actually know that wasn't the truth. And so I think a lot of times, no matter what level you're at, you have to kind of get in the trenches and see for yourself.
Yeah, trust but verify.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Bryan, I'm curious if you had to start everything over today. You've now been successful in a couple of different business models, different arenas, different even ways to scale the businesses that you have. What would you do if you had to start everything over today? What type of business model would you get into?
Yeah, I think for me, I've always just kind of made a decision to work on my best idea, no matter what. And so luckily I'm not terribly creative. I've had one good idea in 10 years. Somebody should push a button and get this chore done. And so then I've never had like this bright, shiny object syndrome. And I've never had this FOMO of, oh, I didn't do that or I didn't do that. Like, well, you didn't have that idea. So it doesn't matter, you know? So that kind of simplifies a lot. For me. But I did make a lot of mistakes building this company. I delegated too quickly, and then I delegated too late. And so what I mean by that is when we started the company, we tried to like outsource everything. We tried to outsource all the tech and outsource the customer service and outsource all the design. And what we found was we kind of had to learn these things in-house and like develop those skills like in our own DNA as founders and then we could build teams around us to do them, and that took time. And then like we had the scars, from failing around delegation, and then we delegated too late. We held on to it too long, and we did too much ourselves for too long, and we lost years doing that. And so I wish I had, once I figured out, the 80/20 behind development or design or content creation or instrumentation for analytics or something like that. I wish I had built teams quicker around all of those things. And so being more mindful of delegating too soon and delegating too late and knowing when to do each is a mistake that I wouldn't have made again.
What's a risk that you've taken either in any of your businesses or your personal life that's gone really well, and a risk that you've taken that went really poorly?
Yeah, you take a lot of risks on people. I took a risk on my two co-founders, and I got really lucky. Because a lot of times with co-founders, you kind of have to take it as like your business soulmate. And
Yeah.
and what way I describe it is you have to think about it like, should I start a business with this person? And if I had $10 million in the bank, would I strike them a check for $10 million to start this business with me? Are they that valuable? And because ultimately you may raise equity and the dilution will be worth $10 million for what you're giving them. Or you may want to sell the business and like their stake might be worth $10 million. So at some point it's going to be a $10 million question. So you might as well have that conversation in your head now. And if you don't feel like, if you had that kind of money, would you spend it on them today, day one, then don't do it. Is
That's a
how
great
I would think
frame.
about
Yeah, I
it.
love that a lot.
I got extremely lucky. I took a big bet on two guys that had a chip on their shoulder, and I recognized that they wanted more out of life, and that the business could be the vehicle that could get them where they wanted to go in life, and they poured their soul into the project, and so we got very lucky there, and so it made a bet there, and it paid off. And then other times I've made bets and it didn't work out, again on people, people that I've hired and then hired the wrong person and then kept them on too long and everybody makes this mistake where you don't want to either admit that you made the wrong mistake or you don't want to go through the hard work of training somebody else, and so you keep them on too long and they're a bad culture fit, and then eventually the bill comes due on that bad decision with interest. And so I've done that. I've made bad bets on marketing channels, that I thought would be ROI positive that just weren't, and if I'm looking back, I wish I had done more test than invest, and it just like kind of took a leap of faith on some marketing channels that were a total waste of money. So yeah, I think business, particularly tech startups, are more like poker and less like chess. You really are making bets. You really are trying to see if there's there, and you're trying to make little small bets and then double down if you see any indication that there's any reason to follow on. But sometimes, we go all in when there's no reason to, and I've done that.
Yeah, going all in when there's no reason to. Yeah, like again, another really good frame to look at. Bryan, what can somebody who's looking at this particular field, landscaping, what can somebody like that expect to make on average?
Yeah, you can start off if you want to start off as an operator in this business as a sole proprietor, and you do it correctly, meaning you don't drive all over town, and you try to like keep your drive time at a minimum. I believe you can make $75 an hour easily,
Wow.
after expenses. But the thing is you have to realize that you're not an employee. You're working for yourself. You're self-employed, but you're also not a business owner. And so it's important to know the difference between the two, because some people think that they're an employee, and then some people think they're a business owner. And and it's both can get you in trouble when you're too small.
Yeah.
The business owner thinks that they don't have to, that they can just kind of delegate everything and
Yeah.
hire people to do things, and they're not there yet. And then the employee thinks that, oh, my kid is sick and I need to stay at home and I don't need to call my customers and tell them I'm not going to be there because my kid is sick. And so it's like, it's no, you're self-employed. And so you kind of have to know what stage of the game you're at, and you have to play at that level. And so if you're serious about it, if you're willing to work the self-employed level, and understand that, okay, I have to service my customers, I have to be proactive, I have to show up on time, I have to follow up. 90% of my success is going to be like Woody Allen said, showing up on time, and then following up, making sure my customers are happy, and asking for the referral, asking for the upsell. As simple as that sounds, 90% of self-employed people don't do that. You will be successful, and um, I see it every day. You can make $50 to $75 an hour very easily. And then as time goes on, once you get to maybe 40, 50 customers, 75 customers, you can easily make six figures a year. And then beyond there, 2 to 3 years in, you can be at $250,000 a year take home pay, no problem if you're serious about it. But you have to be really serious about it, because once you get out of that kind of 100,000 to $250,000 a year, you're moving out of self-employed land more into business owner land. So it's kind of like levels of a video game that you're working.
Tell me your philosophy on personal finance while being an entrepreneur. You've obviously gone through the ups and the downs, and you sold a business and you had a bunch of money, but you didn't sell the business before that. So you didn't have as much money. So tell me your philosophy on personal finance. Like, how do you pay yourself as an entrepreneur and still invest into the business to the degree that it can actually grow and get to the place where you want it to be?
I like a quote that Mark Cuban said. He says, "The least you can live on, the greater your options." So I think if you're just getting started, starting your first business, your personal burn, your personal balance sheet is the business. The business balance sheet is the business's finances. So you kind of have to take audit of that, and you kind of need to live on the least amount possible so your business has a chance. And so that was the case when I was starting my first landscaping business. Of course, this was 20 years ago, but at times I paid myself $20,000 a year because I was pouring every dime back into the business, and I could see that that was the best place for every dollar that I could put back to work. And so I lived very modestly for a very long time. And so I think if you can kind of look at it that way, that, okay, well, I'm going to get rid of the car payment, get a used car. I'm going to get a roommate, if you're single, or I'm going to get rid of, pay off my student loans, get rid of my credit card debt before I start the business. Things like that, cleaning up your personal finances before you even get started, I think makes good sense. Because if it costs you $150,000 a year just to survive, it may be 3 years before you make that kind of money. in the business. And if your salary is six figures, you're going to go backwards before you replace that. But the upside is uncapped, and so
Yeah.
kind of having that long view, I think makes a lot of sense. And so that's my philosophy on it. When I started GreenPal, um, I had built and sold an eight-figure business, and the guy that sold me the business, or the guy that purchased the business, was worth nine figures. And he gave me a really good piece of advice. He was kind of an arrogant guy, but he gave me a good piece of advice. He said, "Hey, listen, I want to give you some advice. It's a lot easier to make $1 million than it is to keep $1 million. And there's going to be a lot of investment advice come your way now, and there's going to be a lot of schemes come your way now. And I just want to let you know, I've bought a lot of these businesses, and I've seen a lot of guys have to start all over again. And so that scared me, made me really paranoid. So I took all the money I made selling that company and invested it all in single family homes. I just bought a bunch of single family homes. And so it was like illiquid rental properties that also needed like cash. They needed like things to be fixed up with them. So I was like poor all over again. I had
Yeah.
no cash. So that was a good place to be starting GreenPal, because if I was like cash flush, I would have been very tempted to pour all that money back into,
100%. Yeah, for
and
sure.
I would have pissed it away because I didn't know what I was doing. I had never started a tech company. And so it kind of really all worked out that really necessity and those constraints is the mother of invention. And it is kind of why we were able to kind of work our way out of problems and have to build our way out of problems because we didn't have a lot of cash to work with.
Such a great piece of advice, man. Live as meager as you can. And then once you start making some money, don't go pretend like you're making money.
Yeah.
Like you have to keep living like you're not making a lot of money, at least for a period of time until you can build even some more cushion there. That's what I love about that is that you immediately, as soon as you had a bunch of money, you wrote a check to get it out working for you so that it feels like you're broke all over again. It's like
Yeah.
on paper, you're worth a lot of money. You got a lot of equity, you got a lot of houses, you get, and then the great thing about houses in particular versus something like just throwing it in the S&P or something is you also get cash flow. So you get to make some money on some rents, but now, and you own equity in a ton of houses. But if you look at your bank balance, it's slim again. So you got to still operate on those same principles when you're starting a new business, which is what enabled you to be successful in that new business venture. So, man, love that advice, dude. Thank you for sharing that.
And I knew I was not disciplined enough to not waste it, to
None of us
not
are.
to not go buy a Ferrari or buy a new watch or
Yeah,
something that I didn't need. I was paranoid about that.
yeah,
The advice that this guy gave me, and I did look up to him because he was super successful, and was to not lose it.
yeah.
And so I took that to heart. And I'm glad I got that advice because I probably would have made some stupid decisions, particularly with investing into the second company, because I wouldn't have known how to put that capital to work.
Absolutely. Yeah. You would start just throwing money at problems, hoping they
Yeah,
go away, but that's not how problems get solved.
that's right.
And you can waste that money. So especially in tech in building software. So that was a turned out to be fantastic advice
That's right.
from that guy. And props to you for actually taking the advice and not losing money. Cause like I said, man, like none of us are that disciplined. If you look, it's a psychological trigger. Like when you look in your account and see a bunch of cash, you're just like, well, I can afford that. I can afford 10 of those things. Oh, sure. Let's go buy that. And then you just go buy that thing. And then it happens again. And then it happens again. To me, it's like, it's the same thing of like why I don't keep junk food in my house. It's
Yeah,
like, I'm not disciplined enough to walk past a dozen donuts on the counter and not eat three of them today. You know what I mean? Like, so
exactly.
I don't put the dozen donuts on my counter. So if you know you don't have the financial discipline, then as soon as you get the money, get it out. Put it to work
Exactly.
somewhere, write a check, get it gone. Don't look at it like you have it, like you can just go do whatever you want with it because you will do something with it that will not be to your advantage. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy life. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy money. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy the fruits of your labor and celebrate, exiting the business or celebrate the new cash flow that you have. Just be smart about it and think about the future version of you and how much you'd be kicking yourself if you had this big exit that could have set yourself up for the rest of your life. And then 4 years later, you're starting from scratch again because you dumped it all into stupid stuff that didn't even matter.
Exactly. That's well said. And a quick example of something that happened downstream was when we started GreenPal, we had no we built the first version. We had no marketing strategy. We had the first version of the app. We needed 100 people to use it. And so I was like, shit, what are we gonna do? We got some flyers printed up and we go pass them out around Nashville, where we live. And we passed out 100,000 flyers all over Nashville to get our first 100, what ended up being 500,000 people to use the app.
Wow.
Had I had $1 million to throw at the problem, I just would have pissed it away on Google ads or
Sure.
or
Sure.
Facebook ads and not had the lessons learned talking to people, knocking on doors.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if we had a bunch of money to throw at these problems in those early days, we would not be where we are today.
Dude, so many lessons. Bryan, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know you're a busy guy, so I always appreciate you hanging out and spend some time with us. Let's move into the last segment here, sponsored by High Level. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, and you want an all-in-one CRM marketing software solution, I've used a ton of different ones in the space. I just kept coming back to High Level because they have everything there, my emails, landing pages. You can text messages, forms, applications, all of it is there. Communities, course stuff, anything you want, High Level can do. So go highlevel.com/Travis to get a 30-day free trial of the High Level platform. Bryan, you ready?
Let's do it.
What profession other than your own do you think that it would have been fun to master?
Ooh, oh man. I love the idea of the guy or gal that rolls into town and he's like the big high-rise developer building the big condo hotels with the sexy lobbies and the pool, the rooftop pools and like the nice flashy like the W hotel on the riverfront or something. I think that would be fun. Probably, when recession hits and those guys get wiped out by because they're over leveraged, probably not. But but to me that would be fun. Like in my second life, I would love to be like a high-rise developer.
Hey, there's still time, bro. There's still time. Once you're done with
Maybe my
GreenPal, you know what
second
I mean?
my third act.
Yeah. If you could sit on a park bench with someone, past or present, and chat for an hour, who would it be?
Let's see. Let's pick present, and I have listened to every spoken word that Naval Ramakant has put out. I don't know. I can't get enough of that guy. He just seems like a living
Or yeah,
sage.
Oracle. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how is this guy so wise?
Yeah.
Is he from another planet? I don't know, but like, and like every time, like I've listened to some talks two or three times, and like it's still not, I still can't like internalize a lot of it. So that dude's awesome. I
Have you
love
have
him.
you gone through the book that they wrote about
Yeah,
him? Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I just I just had Eric Jorgensen on the show, the author of
oh,
the
nice.
Almanac. Yeah, I was like, bro, thank you for putting this together.
What an amazing like just manual on
Yeah,
how to go from
totally.
nothing to something. If you just follow that book, you will be successful.
How do you like to learn best, Bryan? Books, audiobooks, blogs, podcasts, YouTube videos?
YouTube University. Half the battle is finding the right stuff, but if you're willing to put in half the time finding the right stuff, and then the other half of the time learning from the right stuff, you can learn anything for free on YouTube University.
What is your go-to pump-up song?
Um, uh, well, I mean, anything on Get Rich or Die Trying. So, in the club.
What is something that you're not very good at?
Terrible at anything that is in a spreadsheet. Anything spreadsheet related.
As we get everything wrapped up here, Bryan, where can people go to get more from you?
Just Google my name, LinkedIn or Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on LinkedIn, or go to greenpal.com.
Bryan, love the conversations, man. You're one of my favorite entrepreneurs out there doing it every single day. Just keep up the great work. If you ever need anything from me, you know where to find me. Everybody else listening, tuning in, remember money only solves your money problems, but it is a little bit easier to solve the rest of your problems if you got some money in the bank. So let's solve that problem first here on the Travis Makes Money podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time. Peace out.